Very good evening, wherever you are. Welcome to my channel. This is Royal Bangalore Food. Ladies and gentlemen, and boys and girls, today we're living in the world of erratic timelines for various reasons. The number one reason is the climatic change. If you're in the food industry, my channel is all about food. I'm just going to give you a few important tips in terms of how the world will change in terms of how we eat is concerned. But because today, the onion price in Malayalam we call it as Velluli, or in Tamil it's called Vengayam. In Kannada it's called Iruli, and in Hindi it's called Pyaz. Unfortunately, it really made us thirst, or so-called, it really made us piasa to go gaga over onion prices today. Onion prices have hit sky roof. It's gone up from 1,370 per quintal to 2,050 rupees per quintal over a span of just a month or so. It's all boils down to the climatic change that we're having, irregular rains for various reasons, and partly to blame what's in the future that we're going to see some erratic food prices here and there for various fields, which includes rice, which includes onions. Tomatoes have gone roofed in Bangalore. It hit almost 180 rupees per kg. Can you beat it? A tomato which has never been used in the Indian context of cuisine, but otherwise we cannot live with this OPT, what we call it as, right? What is OPT if you ask me? You should know this. It's called onion, potato, and tomatoes. And none of these vegetables was created in India, or it happens to be an Indian vegetable that we use day to day. It's all come from Europe, from Portugal, or from European country, or from the Mexican country. Tomatoes specifically came from Mexico when the Spain travelers moved all over. Then they brought to India. So it's very clear that we see been erratic. So partly is to understand that what is the future of this Indian food is all about. Now that is when I'm here to talk about. So welcome back to my channel. This is Paul. I'm just trying to clear the air. How do you prepare yourself in terms of certain food items, certain recipes, not to surge your pricing if you're running a restaurant or a cloud kitchen or catering or any kind of food manufacturing by obviously onion has been the the base level for creating any kind of gravies for India, be it south, north, east, or west, or even for the matter of fact in any cuisines. Without onion, I don't think so any gravies are being made or any sauces are being made. Look at the onion, right? So there are brista, which is fried onions, and we use onions as a salad which has white, yellow, red. Specifically in India we use red onions, or in the Asian communities. But if you look at the Eastern Europe or like Turkey, where the white onions are grown, one onion is sufficient. When you go to France and Europe, it's more of a shallots, what we call it as, very longer bulb, unlike the bulb that we have in India. So similar context, right? So today I'm going to just look at it. Why is the onion prices have surged or so called increased, and also how we can control this in the future. Now I'm just going to cover quickly the second point. Today we're going to talk about, it's all about ready to eat, ready to cook. A so-called convenience food is the key to set up in any kind of context from here on, right? So I'm just going to keep it short, just to understand what is ready to eat. Is basically those gravies and those sauces which has already been made, ready to consume. All you have to just add your vegetables or probably your protein, or in this case could be seafood or your paneer or your mushroom. The ready to cook masalas or ready to eat masalas are masalas which is, you have onion, ginger, garlic, basically the prep of the recipe or the gravy that you're cooking or a curry that you're cooking. It's already been pre-made, packed it in a very good conditions, have a very good shelf life without any preservatives, and then you can just go ahead and use it. Maximum it might cost you about 60 to 70 rupees, which in wholesome it's costing you more at current trends, right? So this is going to go up again and again and again in various setups. We saw tomato prices going rooftop up. Now we see onions. The finance ministry of India have actually told us, or rather informed in the press today, that the vegetable prices wouldn't surge in the years and coming years. So let's see what's going to happen. But we are heading towards the festival season. So obviously in the market there will be huge demand for coriander leaves, the curry leaves, the green chilies. So let's see what's going to happen. So to cut it all short, why am I telling you? Because I am in the realm of launching a lot of products which is related to ready to cook and ready to eat, be it both vegetarian and non-vegetarians. So stick on the way when I go ahead and launch this product, then it'll be very easy to make you understand how important is such kind of gravies. The entire world is used to it. It's just that the Indians, families and mothers and uncles and aunts has to know what is the importance of this ready to cook and ready to eat. Otherwise, we're just going to have some kind of weird scales of vegetables hitting rooftop. Today, as we speak in Bangalore, per kg of onion cost around close to 37 rupees. In the online, it is around 39 rupees. A great asset from the central government or from the government of India. I saw just recently this happened to be that they've got the FCP, so-called the food production, the Ministry of Food Processing, the food production team have gone ahead and especially in Delhi they're just doing this recce that they're selling onions in the truck comparatively what's happening in the market. So the subsidized onion costings, I guess it's around 30 to 35 rupees per kg. So they are on the truck, almost 12 trucks. I don't know where they're going to do. It's just 12 truck on a basic pilot project. So this will be also done as a pilot across the state. So let's see what's going to future. The future is very clear. You have to adapt to ready to cook or ready to eat gravies or masalas based gravies coming in various contexts. You have to understand this for various cuisines. You can actually do anything that is required. You can make butter chicken, you can make fish curry, you can make biryani. So it basically cuts down your prep work, your costing, everything. It just reduces to a drastic level. Because just imagine if you had to buy, if you're buying a per kg of let's say right now is 37 rupees, you would end up using around 2 or 3 onions, right, to make a gravy. So that itself is around close to around 15 to 20 rupees. Let's say half the cost, right? So if you're doing it 20 rupees for half kg, and if you're utilizing it to make one particular curry, it's like impossible, right? So the idea is that, so you have to understand how do you inculcate all this together is about ready to eat. Is basically making convenience food as easy as possible. I'm just going to, to give you an idea, just context, just to understand 5 important points that how and why the onion prices have surged up or why it has increased, how we can control it in the future, and what are the next steps that we have to take to understand. Just take a quick look at it. The first point is that is a shortage in stored produce, right? What is it? There is a shortage of stored onions due to factors like reduced acreage. What is acreage? Acreage is the size of the acre of land where a lot of vegetables and fruits have grown. Specifically for the farmer, it's all in the acre size measurement that you do, because 1 acre will produce certain amount of fruits and vegetables. Even now today in India as we speak, many farmers are not driven through agricultural food science. They're incapable to understand in terms of how much each acre of land will be able to produce certain vegetables at a certain time, even though when the weather is very erratic as we speak, and not only in India, anywhere in the world. Look at the disaster what happened in Canada. It is completely forest. The forest got engulfed with fire. I mean, forget about the human life which they lost. It's also about the animals, man. I mean, just spare a thought. God only saved them. That's the only way to go forward. Just even Canada. Can you just imagine Canada? I mean, a country which is always 8 months or 9 months covered in snow. It's impossible to go ahead and to see a forest being engulfed with fire. We see that quite often in US, in Hawaii. What happened recently? Even in New Zealand, sometimes in Australia. Australia has always been prone to forest fire. Look at Africa, always been safe, but then still there are times because of weather culture. Look at what's happening in India itself. Like the Haryana part is disaster, devastating to see. Not once, not twice, many a times landslides because of uncalled rainfall, right? So being a Bangalorean, June 1st, it's when we go to school in our younger days, back in 1990s or early 80s or late 80s, I would say. So June 1st it would rain, and it would rain continuously for 2.5 months. That's been a rainy season. And after August or September, that's when we would see lovely winter beginning until Feb or March, and then April, May, June. Again, March, April, May, it's all about summer. So it's a cyclic that we see a lot of changes which is happening. So it's also boils down to the food which farmers really grow. So there's a huge call for startups for agri tech is concerned. Yes, sometimes drone technology do help you to visualize in terms of the crops growing, in terms of the water system is concerned, and weather prediction is concerned, in terms of analyzing how to making utilize of AI and machine learning to understand what kind of crops can grow faster, because onions is such that it doesn't grow as fast as possible compared to any other vegetable. So India has always been blessed abundantly from two countries or two states. Sorry, two states. One is Punjab, one is Maharashtra, and also one is Madhya Pradesh, where predominantly more onions have grown. Now, even if we see because of that uncontrollable weather reasons, is it really the weather reasons that the onion prices have gone up? You never know. So let's look at it. The easiest thing, let's let you know, was that there is a shortage of stored onions due to factors like reduced acreage and weather related damages. Last year, dips in onion acreage and unseasonal rains affected the stored Rabi crop. Now, Rabi crop, there are Rabi crop, there is also something called as Kharif and the late Kharif. These are the point of seasons of vegetables to be grown in various contexts. So specifically, just before the rain could hit, the Rabi crop is being laid out, and that's when the onions is being grown. The second important point is that the acreage and the crop timings, right? The onions are cultivated in three crops, so-called the Rabi, the Kharif, and the late Kharif. Rabi, the most storable crop, suffered from reduced acreage and quality issues due to weather conditions. Farmers who usually offload Rabi onions after June were compelled to do so earlier. So normally the onions, so-called the onion which has been grown in the Rabi crop season, just before the rain could hit, they were not able to store. So it's another greatest problem that in terms of crop timing is concerned. So farmers are still not being able to get educated on their own to understand whether to check with the weather conditions or with the Met department or so-called the meteorological department of Government of India. It's all over, and probably you have to just reach out to the food scientists or the food colleges or the universities it relates with the food just to have an engagement. It's also vice versa, not only the farmer to reach, it's also should be a government education system coming to the farmer level and educating what's happening in the season concern. It's a great story that because it's very devastating to see that India, for a large population as we are, the food is a primary concern. Without food chain, without food production, we're going to have lot of issues in the future. So having said that, you need to watch out for the companies who are actually helping in terms of food to supply the qualitative food. India is still not a food capital in any context. We're nowhere compared to anywhere in the European or American standard, or if it's Australia or New Zealand, even the matter of fact, Africa. So there are third world country which is actually sufficiently stocked their food, not in India's case. Otherwise, we wouldn't see such kind of pricing going up. And the third important point is that demand and exports. High demand for Indian onions in international markets, especially from Bangladesh and West Asia, led to increased exports. Right, so the exports onion prices are economical for trader, because when a trader or farmer which actually grows all his years and life sweat and blood on his crop, and the only way to earn money is to export, because what happens when you export, you get it in dollars. So that's when the farmers are always better, because we see a lot of competition for various texture for any kind of industries. Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, I would not say Pakistan, but more or less Myanmar, predominantly Bangladesh and also Sri Lanka, in terms of food is concerned comparatively to Indian context. So there are other countries is also challenging in terms of quality, the price points and everything else. Look at what Bangladesh did for textiles, the cotton. They had the best cotton. If you really remember, the first mill, so-called, when East India Company had visited, they had visited only for one reason, to put up a cotton mill plant in Dhaka. Then it was West Bengal for India. and that was the first plant or the first point where East India Company was established, only for one reason, that was to to make a mill to have cotton, to make textiles exported to England back then for their own countrymen, because that's when East India Company explored India. Before that, the Dutch and the French actually had already catapulted in terms of Indian. They had a very good relationship with Mughal kingdom dynasty then, and they were very difficult to trade off. But then it was again an effort of 10, 15 years of research with all these East Indian traders came down to Dhaka, then India, to set up a first textile plant. And that's how they started off. So, Bangladesh has always been known since then for their cotton. So it's no two ways about it, even though India is to sell the best. So similarly, in context of onions, Bangladesh and Sri Lanka, they do exports because export onion prices are economically for traders. However, 40% of export duty was imposed for the Indian custom duty on specifically on onions, disrupting the price parity and causing losses to a lot of exporters in India not to export onions. They put a 40% export duty charges. So that's a huge thing. It's only to understand, not to export certain onions. Part of the trade which is now being concerned to go ahead and level for Indian community again. So that's a great asset, right? The fourth important point is that the export duty impact. The government imposed the export duty to retain more onions for the domestic market, which is for the Indian market. This move aimed to ensure smoother supply and demand and lower prices locally available for all this across the states. While a price correction was always possible from the food production for the Ministry of Food, and also Ministry of Finance, got together Ministry of Commerce just to understand that how Rabbi Corp in terms of onions, how it can yield for domestic market and keep the price structure low. And the Kharif Corp's moisture stress poses a larger concern. So when you have this post rain, right, when the post weather, which is absolutely not predicted for after the rainy season, the Kharif Corp moisture was always a stress. So because of that, the onions were always turned spoiled sometimes what you get in the market. I mean, just to give you another clarity, it's so difficult to see the amount of onions get exported while I was in UAE. The quality of onions was excellent. One size purple color red onions always been sold, and get see what we get it in any supermarket. I mean, I don't know what's happening, but that's again the exporter's point of view. So government of India has laid up 40% on export duty cases only to serve domestic market. And the fifth important point is that the moisture stress on the Kharif crop, which is spoken about. It's the Kharif crop, which contributes significantly to the market in Indian market, is facing moisture stress due to the lack of rain. Right, reduced Kharif onion acreage and potential supply shortages might impact market demand in the future. So another greatest thing that you have to understand is a huge scope for an Indian segment to go ahead and yield and understand how we can take this forward in terms of food related businesses, food related solutions. Is a great parity that we are not still incapable. Look at Israel, such a small country, very well equipped with the food, technology, defense. I mean, name it, they have the highest most number of millionaires out there comparatively India. So there are a huge thing that we have to learn as an India. Okay, even though we are in a very young populated country, is the time is that we have to go ahead and leverage the best of the people, make use of it, and make sure that as a country we are content with all these issues that we might face in the future. Is the food, is the oil problem, it's also about weather, it's also about safeguarding our farmers in terms of the the crop timings. Get easy technology for them to understand and make it more convenient and make it more easily accessible to go ahead and do so. So that's about onion pricing. Very simple layman terms to understand for everybody, you and me. But as I said, it's all about collective effort, not only from the government, it's also from the individual who actually wants to take this forward to help you out in any context. I mean, just to give you an idea, in India, we do not, the price for the shallots, or so-called the small sambar onions, what we call it in South India, is really rocketed up. It's almost 120, an average of 90 to 120 rupees per kg. I mean, we don't see white onions. If you remember 2-3 years ago, before COVID, India has actually imported a lot of white onions from Turkey, from Middle East, and so on and so forth. So that's going to see, we're going to see very soon in the market as well. So be prepared for all this kind of price surge. So come back to solutions. Do let me know what you think about this video, and comments below. That'll be really helpful to make you understand, and I can get you this information that it is just the awareness, and probably a lot of entrepreneurs have not explored food as a segment, because also spoke about plant-based diet. You can actually look up in my previous video and get a fair understanding that how you can leverage plant-based food. So onions makes it whole for that glory of God. Okay, with that in mind, thanks for sticking by. Thanks for listening to me. I appreciate it. Take care. Cheers. Bye bye.